Is it a shock to me that the Houston Rockets are one of the bottom teams in the Western Conference, let alone in the whole NBA? No, it's not shocking me whatsoever. Now, is it a shock to me that they lost 20 in a row? Yeah, I mean, it kind of has. We'll cover a little more into here. The Houston Rockets are sitting at a 12-30 record. The bottom team of the Western Conference, actually the second behind the Minnesota Timberwolves, and overall in the NBA tied with the Detroit Pistons for the third worst record the entire NBA. Now, if we want to get a little more breakdown of the Houston Rockets this season, let alone the stretch, what's been going on, we do understand the very beginning of the season, or prior to that, the Houston Rockets' direction was pretty much imploding as can be. Instead of being a quote-unquote contender, or one of those main threats in the Western Conference, they went a different direction. First of all, Daryl Morey parted ways, and he went over to Philadelphia. Then you had Mike D'Antoni part ways as the head coach, and became an assistant coach with the Brooklyn Nets. Now you did get Russell Westbrook and a swap for John Wall, and then a few weeks later, in the beginning of the season, James Harden was pretty much traded in that mega blockbuster trade, and so on and so forth. We're going to look at the Houston Rockets roster as of right now. It is not ideal. It is not appealing whatsoever. A few weeks ago, Boogie Cousins, he was waived and bought out by the team, and he is still a pending free agent to sign with any team as of right now. PJ Tucker just got traded away for DJ Augustine, DJ Wilson, and a pick. And we're looking at the rest of the roster. Nothing's really appealing. I mean, you have John Wall still part of the franchise. You still have the same players with the Houston Rockets of Ben McLemore. Same thing with Daniel House Jr. and Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon has been hurt throughout the stretch. Then other players such as David Nwaba, a nice piece. Christian Wood, who has a top 3 chance of becoming the most improved player of the year award in that section. Kevin Porter Jr., Dante Exum, Sterling Brown, and kind of a couple more pieces within there. The Houston Rockets are not appealing. They need to be in the rebuilding mode and rebuilding stage. I don't like the direction that the franchise has taken. They should have pretty much hit that rebuild button at the beginning of the season, but when you made that trade for Russell Westbrook for John Wall, you didn't go anywhere in that direction. You pretty much stayed in purgatory. And when you traded away James Harden, in return you got Karis LeVert, and you got then you flip Karis LeVert for Victor Oladipo. What direction are you going? It makes zero sense. We do have right now Victor Oladipo is going to be on the trade market alongside possibly with John Wall. Eric Gordon's hurt, so he's pretty much going to stay with the franchise. But this team makes zero sense. The franchise and management has done a terrible job executing a rebuilding stage and rebuilding plan. And that's pretty much led into the Houston Rockets losing 20 games in a row. Now, credit to them, they actually broke that streak after they beat the Toronto Raptors in an 18-point win, 117-99. But we've seen with interviews with Steven Silas, pretty much you can see the pain within this franchise of losing game after game, players who are hurt, and the direction of this franchise has gone downhill. Now, the Houston Rockets need to take notes from the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have been pretty much taking the NBA on a perfect strategical side of things. I mean, if you're looking at the OKC Thunder, they executed a perfect rebuild away from Steven Adams, Chris Paul, some other players. And the Thunder are sitting at a 19-24 record. They're around the 11th seed in the Western Conference and only 4 games away from the 8th seed. So kudos to the Thunder. I mean, even though they're not going to make the playoffs, but the Rockets did a terrible direction about this rebuild process. But let's stay more focused on this 20-game streak as of right now. You have seen John Wall throughout this stretch, alongside Victor Oladipo, Eric Gordon, miss extended stretches due to key injuries. And that's not the main thing as well. You did have PJ Tucker part of the franchise to where he was accepted to pretty much be in a trade request, and he was sitting out games. But eventually, they traded him away to the Milwaukee Bucks. And Houston fielded the NBA minimum of 8 players in some games during the streak. I mean, the Rockets lost 12 consecutive games by double digits before Sunday. Pretty much that matches the 1993 Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves spanning the 94-95 seasons for the most consecutive losses by 10 or more points. Now, John Wall stated that pretty much when they lost 20 straight, he said they haven't been healthy. He said, of course, that's not an excuse because everything that's been going through health and safety protocols and injuries. He pretty much stated that they went out there and competed no matter what was going on. The Rockets were not in a good direction. They need to rebuild. They need to complete this due to Thursday's trade deadline. Do I expect all these pieces to go down with? No, I do not. But the main thing should be for Victor Oladipo to get out of there. Essentially, you would like to have John Wall off. Same thing with Eric Gordon. Get out all these quote-unquote vets and restart young and get picks. But we'll see with the Houston Rockets. I still expect them to be bottom of the Western Conference. Not an appealing team. But, of course, you got to hold on to Christian Wood tight because he's their quote-unquote future as of right now. Hey, let me know what you guys think about this stretch about the Houston Rockets, how they should rebuild / retool, and kick it off from there.